afternoon, good evening, and good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another exciting Alpha X Pro Replay Cast. Today, we dive into the OlimoLeague 2021 January Grand Finals with this semifinal match, spawning up here in the top position, representing himself and his country. This is BYUN. And his opponent over here in the bottom position, a fantastic Protoss player in his own right. He is currently playing for Good Game Gaming. He is Patience. So this is the semi-final match from the January finals for the OlimoLeague, one of the premier places where these guys can kind of shake out the rust in between all of these premier tournaments, because we don't have a really big one until Katowice late next month. So these guys have still got to get some good practice in, and if they can make a little money while doing so, I'm sure they will never complain about that. Now, Patience has had a little bit of an issue versus BYUN recently, and Terrans in general. He's really had a little bit of a rough spot there. The last time he actually beat a Terran was TY on the 14th of January, so almost half a month has gone by before he's been able to get that win. And I mean, BYUN is one of his biggest nemesis. If you take a look at the OlimoLeague page, they seriously have a history together, and it's mostly just red when he goes up against BYUN. Now, that being said, Patience is one of those players who can have those aggressive starts, just looks to push the momentum away from BYUN, because BYUN is one of those players who's very focused on the early to mid game. There's a lot of times where even in the late game, you will see him with just a very rudimentary army, just pure Marine, Marauder, Medevac with Widow Mines or Essentials, but he won't go up to Ghosts, he won't get additional Vikings. It kind of depends on how heavy he can get that pressure in, and it looks like he's going to start things off with a very small push, looking to kind of just poke and prod his opponent a little bit. Now, the good thing for this is BYUN is going to be following this up with Hellions, so as long as you kind of keep that wall roughly defended, you should be okay. But, you know, this is pretty committed out of BYUN early on, so we'll have to see what he can get done with that. Already, one of those Marines going to go down, the Hellion, taking a little bit of damage as well, so this will be forced back. Now, BYUN, he hasn't been in Patience base, but because he saw those two Stalkers, he does have an idea of what Patience is going for. He can almost assume that it's going to be Blink, because there's not enough gas to go for Stargate off the back of this and still be ahead in terms of that tech. Little Korean text right there. These guys do have a little bit of banter. BYUN, one of those players that really likes to talk during non-professional matches. So that's always fun to see. Now we do see those Hellions are going to get kind of barricaded in there, so the pylon going to go down in time, so he won't be able to get too much done. These are pretty much just to keep his presence out on the map, make sure that Patience knows that if he moves out, he's going to be able to poke and prod you, and you're not going to have as much damage to do. Now, saying that, we do have that third CC down and not that many siege tanks. So, if Patience is able to move across the map, BYUN did slow down his tech just a little bit in order to make these Hellions, which are now getting picked off for almost free. I think Patience, almost a perfect game right now, only getting 2 of his probes picked off for all of those fighting units of BYUN. So already a pretty good start for him here. Just going to get that third base up at a roughly normal time. So he's going to stay relatively equal here, but once a Terran starts to get onto 3 base, that's where it starts to get dicey for the Protoss player, because he's going to be able to just keep momentum on your side of the map, and we do see a bit of a double prong here with those Hellions, with those siege tanks, as well as the Banshees coming down at the bottom for a little bit of a sneak attack. So here we go. The Banshee's going to be able to make it in. They do need to focus fire here because there is a shield battery in position. But this does mean that the Stalkers are not going to be right on top, but they will blink on top of that siege tank. One will go down, and with the shield battery popping, I don't think BYUN can really hold this location too efficiently. So yeah, he is just going to back up, and that does mean a lot of his forward momentum is gone. And Patience will take that supply lead. Although, not paying attention, unfortunately there is once again that shield battery. It takes 3 Hellions to one-shot the probes. So that's just more of a nuisance, as BYUN really doesn't have a lot back at home. A couple of siege tanks coming down now, so he will be able to force this back. And now we're kind of in this stalemate situation. BYUN can't efficiently move out, but Patience can't really attack in either. So now BYUN can try and take this base. A couple of nice pickoffs here would be good for Patience. He does not have stim, so he will be able to just kind of blink out of problems here. Yeah, it looks like he's just going to kind of harass, keep his little presence out on the map with this hit squad while powering up to Colossus and that gateway explosion. So overall, just a really solid start for Patience, not taking any damage to BYUN's early shenanigans, and really just able to build up that economy. So now he's feeling pretty safe, he's feeling pretty good. He can get his upgrades, he can get his additional tech, and he can really just start to explode. Although he has to be careful here because BYUN is now on the stim hunt. Patience will have to back on out. He will have 2 Colossus production at a time. We don't see any Vikings from BYUN, and that's one of the things that some Terran players do. They skip the Viking tech so that they can get out additional siege tanks or additional Marauders, or just something that's going to help them more in the later stages, because as those Colossus die, the Vikings start to lose a lot of their utility. Now they can still be good as a sort of buffer unit, and it is important to get rid of those Colossus quickly, but we'll have to see if BYUN can do it without them, as the siege tanks sieged up in the back, and now Patience is essentially just buying time, making sure that this is a slow push forward for BYUN rather than the more consolidated position that he would like. Now he sees the siege tanks are going down. The medevacs need to save some of those tanks. Like, I think that's the most important thing here, but he loses almost all of them. Fighting up the ramp, though, Patience in a bit of a choke point, so he is taking way more damage than he really should. The Colossus, though, doing a good job of wailing away at this Terran usurper, and BYUN will be forced back to his own third, but can Patience clean it up with what he's got? I think he does have enough here, but we'll have to see. BYUN kind of just sacrificing this location for a little bit to set up a surround. So the good news for Patience as well is he's not losing any of these high-tech units. He's only trading out the gateway which is great for him because that means that he's not going to have to remake these expensive units and instead can start to pull up that bank as he's starting to max out. BYUN, for his credit, he recognizes that he's not going to be able to get too much more damage done, and instead is deciding to go up in the tech route. 3 ghosts on the way. We should be seeing the EMP upgrade come down soon. But the question is Patience going to give him the time to do so? We do see those Archons getting closer and closer to the siege line, as well as a huge Zealot run by. The saving grace is BYUN does have a really big choke point for those Zealots to filter through. So BYUN going to try and get a little bit of work done with this drop. But Patience is in position with the army. He can just rotate around between his bases, so he should be feeling pretty safe. Versus all of this, even going to add on those additional gateways and the Dark Shrine just because. BYUN, though, fully maxed out, and he has his secondary army moving on in. But here we go. The Archons getting some amazing splash, as well as the Colossus just getting a line down. That is going to force BYUN back, and he will have to reinforce his army, bring them together, and has to be careful not to lose these medevacs. At this stage in the game, you want to be spending all of your gas on heavier hitting units. You don't want to be remaking medevacs. The Ghost, though, getting fully surrounded. They did get their EMPs off, but that's not going to be enough to save most of them. Only one surviving here. And Patience, just with some good vision out on the map, is going to be able to really read BYUN right now. Going to force BYUN into an uncomfortable position where he just can't find the angles he needs to attack. Now, one thing that BYUN could do right now is he could send off a small spattering of units down here. Patience is keeping 5 supply for Zealots, but if you can send a large enough force and be able to defend here at your 4th, then you're going to be able to kind of force Patience back and get the momentum back in your favor. As it stands, Patience is going to be coming in here once again. Disruptor not getting the shot off that it needs. But honestly, Patience is so far out of position from his bases that I think BYUN would be able to get that back, as BYUN hasn't been on Patience's side of the map recently. That's really an uncomfortable position for him because he loves those stages where you can get that forward momentum and just really push the issue. Patience finding a little bit of room. We'll get a little bit of damage done, but as enhanced shockwaves comes on in, I think BYUN is going to be looking for the fight, just taking one small instance to take down the Zealots in the backfield, but that he might lose the base because of that. And actually saying that, never mind, there's just not enough firepower here. BYUN has forced the recall. This isn't his entire army out on the map, but it is enough to get those pickoffs on these units. Unfortunately for him, he's fighting right in range of these Colossus. Disruptors as well going to force this back. And while BYUN does have a supply lead, he doesn't really have a ton of tech anymore. Only just now going to start to bring in some Liberators to the fight. As the DT is going to be cleaning up another base of BYUN's. He's going to go for it. Scans going down, revealing the DT's warped in for the defense. If he can get this base, I think he's going to be in a much better position as he's getting the Colossus pickoff that he really wants. But that was a nasty disruptor hit right there, forcing BYUN to go straight for the probe line instead. So now Patience He lost the base. He doesn't have a real army to speak of anymore. BYUN taking a much larger army supply lead, and he has added in the Vikings and the Liberators. So he's feeling pretty confident in himself right now with that last push. If he can keep that up, it's just death by 1,000 cuts at that point. BYUN trying to fight with half of his army here, just trying to find a good location. Even going to break down the rocks for the surround. This is going to force Patience to kind of retreat from this location, as he doesn't want to get surrounded. He's being very cautious about the fights that he's taking. Unfortunately, though, he's continuously trading out these Stalkers, and the Liberators actually going to get some good work done as well. 6 more probes going down. That is totally worth it. And now we get into the situation. BYUN, he's maxed out once again, but he might lose the base if he's not careful. As we do have DTs in almost every single location, even going to morph in an Archon to get more value out of them. But here we go. Patience going to be moving in once again. The Disruptor just trying to allow these Stalkers to move forward. Getting a couple of pickoffs on those Vikings as well before the fight even really begins. Huge Disruptor shot right there. And now that supply lead that BYUN was nursing is halved. Patience is still rotating around this location. That Zealot run by is just waiting for the army to be gone and away. BYUN going to be coming in with this full 360 Disruptors, getting some massive connections on one side. The second one going to go off as well. So BYUN taking a lot of damage there before he can really get on top of this. But the Vikings still going to wail away. If he can kill those off, it's going to help out a lot. Because if he doesn't get those, then that's almost game over. Doesn't really have a ton in the backfield to help him out. And here we go, the EMPs saving the day as the gateway buffer is starting to go down. He's getting on top of the Colossus still, but it's just not enough. BYUN forced back, and he's down over 40 army supply. Even the reinforcements getting picked off by the run-by. Right, so the Liberators going to siege up in a couple of different locations, just trying to find some value since they are not in the army. We did have 3 probes go down somewhere on the map. But here we go. Once again, this is BYUN. He might be down on workers. He might be down on a lot of different things, but he's still going to try these pushes. Because if he can get these bases just dead in the water, that's what's going to win him this game, just through sheer force of will. But I think the clock is ticking for him just a little bit. Even though he's killed off this base, he can't push much further and loses a big base right there. That was his main base. Floated on over. Neck and neck here. Patience is maxed out almost completely right now, and as BYUN rotates his way forward, trying to get on top of the Colossus, he's just unable to focus fire those down, and so he's continuously being forced back right now. I think Patience has done it in game number 1. There you have it. GG is called. We will will see you guys in game number 2. He was unable to find the momentum in game number 1, but let's see if he can bring it back in game number 2. Spawning in the bottom position of Pillars of Gold, he is BYUN. And in the top position, representing Good Game Gaming, just looking absolutely unstoppable in that first game, he is Patience. All right. So we'll have to see how BYUN is intending to kind of pull it back from that last one. We did see that he was going for that early game damage with that first big push. But as that kind of fizzled out, it really took him a while to get back onto Patience's side of the map, which really just allows the Protoss player to explode in terms of that economy. And I think it's kind of the opus of the Terran player. He has to get some damage done, otherwise he's just going to falter and fall pretty far behind, as we saw. Now, we do see that he is skipping the Reaper once again. And this has been a thing with Terrans recently, where they just don't feel like they're getting the good value out of the Reaper as you usually would. The only time it really is worth it is if you're expecting some sort of cheese that you just need to scout. And even then, you can kind of get that information just with the SCV that you send across the map. Instead, doesn't look like BYUN is going to be doing either of that, though, as we have the factory coming on up, and he's going straight into that reactor play. There's a good chance for Hellions this time because Patience is not walling off, but let's just keep an eye on that for right now. The probe being baited forward here. He didn't get any information on that factory, so he's still thinking, okay, it could be a 2-1-1. It could be a 3CC. There's just a lot of different things that are going on in Patience's mind right now as to what is going on. Now, on Patience's side of the map, he is going for Stargate. There is a lot of dead air on this map where you can hide those Phoenix, get the Oracles in a good position, and yeah, he will be able to get some good damage done with that if BYUN is not paying attention. But BYUN actually going to be going for a little bit of a Widowmine drop. Probably going to add on the Marines as well just to make it a lot more potent. Here we go. First Oracle is on the way. The Phoenix as well. That's going to be a pretty good tool to prevent that Oracle from dying. Where is that Widowmine? Okay, it actually is on cooldown? I actually still can't see the Widowmine. There it is. Alright, so Patience knows that that's there, so he's not really going to fall for that. He's not going to have any trouble avoiding that either. But we do see the Phoenix going to be moving across the map. Just trying to get a couple of pickoffs on these SCVs. And this did, keep in mind, stop BYUN from going for this big aggressive push, or drop rather. And yeah, that's really just going to slow down BYUN's progress, as we'll have to see when he actually does decide to move out. Has a good chance to after the siege tank is done. that is going to reveal a lot of that main base, and that is just some good information as to the location of the Marines. Oh no, the Widowmine actually going to get picked off here as well. Just an untimely little mistake from BYUN. It's one of those things that's not the biggest deal in the long run of things, but it can be annoying and can kind of get you in the mindset of, okay, I made a mistake. I might not want to do that again. You know, we don't see that third CC coming down either from BYUN, so there is the possibility of a push coming up soon. We'll have to keep an eye on that because we do have that siege tank gonna be unsieging here. It looks like he's grouping up his units to move out on the map. And yes, indeed, that is the case. He's gonna throw down the third CC behind that. And that's one of the things. I love it when you push as you're getting the third CC, because that does mean that you're going to have a lot of pressure away from that base, which is going to allow you to take it much more efficiently. Scan going to go down as well, revealing that this is Charge Lot Archon. And BYUN might be feeling pretty happy about that. He's got the Widow Mines to deal with the Zealots. He's got the Siege Tanks to wail away on the Archons. We do have a small drop that did get spotted out here as well. Actually, BYUN being very patient right now. Not overextending himself and moving too far forward. Although the medevac will get taken down here, as well as all of those Marines. So that's going to kind of tell BYUN, okay, I can get the pickoffs, but it's going to slow down my attack to get those. One Phoenix does go down. That's actually the only unit that has gone down for Patience other than the Pylon. That's pretty funny. All right, getting the Oracle. That's a pretty nice pickoff. Another Phoenix will fall as well. The last Widowmine does not get the shot off. But don't worry, BYUN has plenty more where that came from. Even going to kill off that stasis trap that was bugging his third base. And you know, like I did say that Terran players do need to get some sort of damage done, but I don't think BYUN is really far behind in too many aspects of this game right now, as Patience has gone for very heavy gateway aggression. You know, he's just got a ton of Zealots. He's got not that many high tier units, although with Storm coming on in, they'll probably start to warp in those High Templars so they can bank up the energy. But yeah, from here we just see those upgrades starting to relatively kick in for both sides. And yeah, we'll just have to see who blinks first, essentially. We got Patience ready for the Storm drop here, and he's actually going to cancel that. One Storm does go down, but now he doesn't have any additional Storms, although that first one doing quite a bit of work to BYUN's army. Dorito Cannon as well, going to make sure that Patience can't really engage into this, so it's essentially just buying time for himself before beginning the fight. The first big Storm of the fight does go off without a hitch. One big feedback as well on that Raven, just preventing any additional lockdowns. But BYUN gonna be pushing his way forward here, and there's just not a lot of Protoss with this army. He's gonna have to get on top of them with the Archons to get that splash down. Just not able to. on the retreat. BYUN going to take a big storm right there, but he will be able to heal up and get back into the fight, although he's leaving some of his units undefended for the Phoenix to raise up, and even going to lose some time on that third base. So while BYUN still has a beautiful position right here, he is getting distracted by these run-bys of Patience. And here we go, Patience just getting ready to pull the trigger. As BYUN just slowly pushing his way forward. And there you have it, the force fields taking down a good chunk of this army. The Widowmine's still going to be covering the retreat, so Patience not going to be able to move up that ramp. And I mean, from here, he looks very content to just allow BYUN to headbutt into him. We do have at least one force field left with this army. It's not going to catch too much, however. And this is the thing about BYUN. He's found his position. He's found his angle of attack. As long as he can keep this momentum up, he's going to be quite content to do so, as we see that parade push of blue trickle across the map. Even going to feel comfortable enough to kind of give up this location and preserve a good majority of his army. Taking a look at that income, by the way. 1,650 mineral difference. You can see when the mules were dropped by that dip, but I mean, mules are good, but they're not win the game off of good. And what am I saying? Mules are really good. You could probably win a game off them, but here we go. One storm does go off. BYUN not taking a ton of damage to it. I think from here, the problem is BYUN is going to have trouble kind of getting back across the map now that Patience is taking up positions up these ramps and getting these distractions in as well, with all the Zealots cleaning up the SCVs. You have a big fight going on in the front as well. But Patience will be able to get rid of a lot of those Widow Mines, making it much more difficult for BYUN to react. EMP going to go down on the main army. But Patience already gone and done. I don't think he has enough to clean anything up. But, you know, he is more than welcome to try. Alright, here we go. Patience moving in between the main base, or the natural and the third. Small Zealot run by going to be coming in, getting 6 additional workers here. So BYUN really just struggling to get an income going here at any point. We do see those Archons, though, taking a lot of EMP fire here, so they're not going to be too long for this world. The Zealots as well. Just having a little issue finding their connections, but they will still get 21 workers. And that does mean that BYUN is really going to be hurting for income here. He's going to have to play the long game if he wants to come back into it. Looks like we did have one Widow Mine come on in and get a couple of probes while Patience wasn't paying attention. But now BYUN has over double the army supply here, so he is going to just chase this back and try and get some of these Immortals before he kind of stops. Another Widow Mine shot going off in the backfield, but here we go. The main fight beginning once again. The Storm's doing a fantastic job of keeping BYUN away from this army. We do have the Doom Drop going to be heading towards potentially the third base, or what is he going to do with that? Yeah, he's just going to keep that going down to the other side of the map. Going to try and find something to do with those. That does mean, though, that Patience will be able to engage into this with his main army. Right, they're gonna force Patience away here, as that is just a huge Zealot run by. Almost a whole page and a half of Zealots going right there. He does have, now keep in mind, he does have a bunch at home to help deal with this drop as well. And, my goodness, if Patience wins this game, it's just gonna be off the back of these massive Zealot warpins. The problem is, though, as time goes on, as BYUN kind of builds up his forces of Marauders, of Marines, DPS, as well as getting those EMPs in there, then those Zealots are going to lose a lot of their utility as anything other than run-by units. And by that I mean he's still going to be able to fight, but they're not going to be as effective versus this 3-3 bio. Although if he gets those pickoffs like that, I think he's going to be just fine. All right. BYUN has found where the main army is at, and he knows it's not at this location. Looks like he was expecting BYUN to go for a big attack on the top, but a huge storm connection gonna just blanket this army, and there's not a lot of healing left with these medevacs. BYUN still looking for damage where he can get it, and 7 additional workers did go down during all of that. So honestly, looking at the economies right now and the worker supply, BYUN has forced his way back into this game, kicking and screaming. We're going to get a cheeky Colossus pick off here, potentially. Might get 2 if Patience isn't careful. And there you have it. Patience losing all 3 of his Colossus. Now the Vikings can land and just help support this army as a buffer. As we see that drop, still trying to get some work done. The Stalkers, though, just making sure that that does not happen. Little dance party up here. Never a problem to get jiggy during war. All right, here we go. Patience is going to set himself up between the 3rd and the natural, but enough Marauders are here that those Stalkers are not long for this world. Taking a look at this, this army is getting weaker and weaker, however. I don't really see a lot of energy left with these medevacs. In fact, I don't really see a lot of medevacs. He's only got 3 of them. 3 medevacs, and they're running out of juice. 2 of them are up here in near the 5th base too, so that is just not great position for BYUN to be in. As here we go, one big fight. Patience does not have enough there, but the Zealot run-bys, again, just getting so much work done. Now, I'm not one to count BYUN out by any stretch of the imagination. Doing so is probably one of the worst things that you can do. And to keep in mind, he does have that big army supply now just consolidated and moving across the map, while Patience doesn't really have a lot here other than those Zealots. This is even going to just prompt BYUN to come back home and to defend, kind of just showing him that, hey, if you move across the map, I'm going to kill everything that you have, so stay away from me. Here we go, a little bit of a base race situation. Patience does have a recall available to him, but not going to use that just yet. As one base will fall, the probes will escape. The Vikings do go down, but they did kind of buy a little bit of time for BYUN. This is kind of one of the problems. Never base race a Terran. They can just move around the map quite easily. Keep in mind, though, that BYUN does not have enough to remake these orbital commands, so he does need to keep those alive. And honestly, he needs to get on top of the tech with like yesterday to prevent any additional warp-ins. Oh, that was painful. Scan going down, going to reveal that location. No army is left there. It looks like Patience is trying to find the army of BYUN. Currently down over 60 or 50 supply, but most of that is in BYUN's army. He's only got 3 workers. And it looks like Patience is going to get caught out here in the middle, loses all the Archons, the Stalkers, the last thing to blink away, and he can't remake any of those. He doesn't have the Cyber Core anymore. So we kind of see him just stuck with gateway units. That does mean BYUN is going to have so much mobility out here on the map. Just got to be careful not to lose it to Disruptors, and already get some good pickoffs there. And now he actually does have the army supply lead. He's got this full supply lead. He's still producing Marauders. I think BYUN is thinking his way into this game. It's going to come down to what happens here, and yeah, that's pretty much most of Patience supply in these Stalkers. And he's just going to keep losing these bases to these Terran hit squads. Ring around the rosy, pocket full of death and laser beams. BYUN does kind of, his whole goal right now is to just clean up these Stalkers, get rid of these Zealots, because if he can do that, then it's pretty much GG. You can kind of see Patience not really mining too much, but he does have a bit of an economy. 1 orbital command left. But yeah, pretty wonky game right now. Losing the Stalkers to the Widow Mines. That's going to be GG, and we will see you guys in game number 3. And so as we are tied up 1 apiece, we're ahead into game number 3, spawning up here in the top position. He is Patience. And his opponent down here in the bottom getting a chuckle. He is BYUN. So these last 2 games, long drawn out affairs coming down to the wire. The first one, Patience taking that obvious lead and doing a really good job of just keeping BYUN on the back foot. The second one, he faltered a bit, and that allowed BYUN to find those angles of attack where he was just able to consistently get constant amounts of damage. And in the end, was able to just overwhelm Patience slowly but surely. I'm sure these guys are definitely getting tired, as this was a long tournament series for them. So that does mean they're going to want to kind of make this go a little bit shorter, I'd imagine. But there you go. Once again, we do see BYUN skipping the Reaper. Obviously, a lot of what he does really doesn't matter what he sees on the other side of the map, so just skipping out that additional information by sending either an SCV or just anything similar does mean that he can have a little bit of extra mineral income. He can pump out these units a little bit quicker, and really it just doesn't matter what Patience is going for. So that's kind of BYUN's mind thinking here, why he's not going for these attacks. Now we do see he is banking up quite a few minerals here with the CC. Going to be dropped on down. So this is a very aggressive economic opening here. Now BYUN, if this isn't scouted and if there's no attack coming across, this will do wonders. But if there's even a little bit of resistance, that's where it gets really dicey for BYUN. But this will allow him to get up to that 3-base economy, and that is where he does his magic. Now, Patience, this is dicey. We have the Twilight Council going down. Now, this can either be for two reasons: Stalkers or Dark Shrine. More than likely, it's going to be Stalkers, and that's even scarier than the Dark Shrine in this situation. We'll have to see how many gateways he does decide to throw down, because if it's 3 gate, then you can macro out of that. You can get up to that 3rd base a little bit easier, and you'll have a good time. 4 gate, that's a lot more all-in, a lot more committed damage that you have to get done in order to stay in the series. But it is just going to be that 3 gate. We do see the Robo facility going on down, and, you know, the one good thing for BYUN is that he does have Stim on the way. That's all he has. I mean, he doesn't even have the factory right now, and that's just really, really not good for him. He needs some sort of splash, because otherwise those Stalkers are just going to be able to get the pickoffs that they need to really whittle him down. All right, and now Patience got to be feeling pretty happy. He sees exactly what's going on in this base. Sees the 3rd CC, sees the factory coming on down, and yeah, he's got to be feeling pretty happy with himself right now. Look at that, BYUN even just playing it very, very safe in this game. Going to get that missile turret down just in case it is DTs. But here we go. BYUN is going to try and get some first blood, but going up that ramp is a very, very not that good position for him to be in, because these Stalkers will have blink, and I mean, going this really roundabout path does mean that he has wasted a bit of time to get there, and even going to get scouted by this observer. All right, so Patience blinking back, getting a couple of pickoffs. That's all he really needs. As long as he doesn't lose too many of these Stalkers, he should be feeling good. Already losing 2 of them, though. That's not the best situation for him. Oh, man, if BYUN would scan and get rid of this observer, this would slow down the attack of Patience for a lot longer. Good blinks back. Going to save as many of these guys as possible. But now with all of those dead, that does mean that BYUN has a little bit of a weaker army back at home. Although he is going to start just pumping out the Marauders, trying to stay safe. gonna say BYUN is definitely ballsy right now. Moving out onto the map, trying to pick off these stalkers. They do get to blink away, which is the big problem for him. So the further he chases, the more chances there are for a backstab. Yeah, unfortunately for him, just patience all over the place with this vision. So he is going to get some vision off on these drops. And oh no, might lose the medevac. But does get out in time, so these units will try and trade, but unfortunately that's a situation you're not going to win. BYUN has to bring his army together here if he hopes to survive. All right, we got that gateway explosion coming down for Patience as well. So generally as the game goes on, it starts to kind of swing a little bit into Protoss's favor if you do decide to just stick with pure Marine Marauder medevac. And that's kind of what BYUN's doing right now. He's hoping to get these engagements where he can just get this consolidated push. Even going to try and make it a drop for good measure. But if he doesn't start to get a transition going, get some Vikings, get some more Widow Mines, get the Ghost Academy started, that's where Patience is just going to really start to steamroll ahead, as he will be able to get those trades as the upgrades kick in. Scan also going to go down. Reveals that the army is not there, so all of these will pass. The Zealots, though, going to clean up what they can. The Stalkers a little bit caught out of position. Even the recall of the Colossus was a little bit risky there, but the shield battery is going to be enough to kind of clean that up. BYUN, however, hitting the fourth base with a vengeance. As soon as those Stalkers get off cooldown, they're going to have to get out of there. That being said, never mind, because BYUN has been caught far, far away, but he's just going to keep this attack going. He doesn't want to lose this momentum. And he is getting good pickoffs here, and he's up over 20 supply. He's up over less supply now. So from how he's gearing up, it looks like he's going to be going for the double prong harassment as well. Patience does have enough to kind of protect multiple locations, although he's not going to have a big Colossus supply in order to do so, as that number isn't really too big. But we also do have that DT going to be coming in completely undetected. That's just going to force a lot of BYUN's forces back in order to kill that off and slow down this double prong attack. We'll see him rotate around to the top position, but the real start to the fight is down here. That Nexus will have to get canceled. Force going to surround a lot of these units. Good pick up there by BYUN. Going to save a good majority of them. The Widow Mines as well, getting some good connections off. And there is still some units here that can go into the natural if they so choose. But a warp into Stalkers is going to end that dream. Finding a good location to get some more probe kills. I think BYUN is doing pretty well in this situation. Just kind of getting those small pickoffs here and not really losing too much for them. We can see that he's got 95 to 81 army supply, and he does have the Ghosts on the way, as well as those additional Widow Mines. All right, just barely not enough damage there for the Photon Cannon to go down. The force fields trying to bait the army in, and that's going to make it a little bit harder to retreat, so BYUN just going to back off from this location. Again, he's not overextending by any stretch of the imagination. Although losing that medevac is going to hurt.
Mineral field depleted.
All right, how many ghosts does he actually have out on the field? None just yet, making his first one now. So EMPs are going to be a little bit behind. We do see those medevacs trying to find an angle, and they will descend on this base, but the Colossus are here. Albeit a little bit undefended until those stalkers show up. We're going to lose some of those to the Widow Mines. And now this is really just a distraction for the main effort down here. Unfortunately, he's got over 5 Colossus on the field. So there's more than enough. Disruptors are in play right now. Get a pretty good connection, even killing off one of those ghosts. So that's less EMPs for the fight. We do see BYUN just going to be stimming in. There's not really that much to follow this up. So as a lot of these units start to fall, those Colossus are very, very dead here. Although good enough for Patience, keeping his other forces nearby. Will force BYUN to retreat once again, and Patience has taken the army supply lead for the first time in a while. You're gonna look at that army size. It's been relatively equal as these guys are just masters of that macro. And so what's really the play from here? BYUN's play? Keep Patience on his side of the map. Do not allow him to have the forces to do these small run-bys like we see here. Just finding these angles is flawless for him because the Zealot's not even going to be able to get on top of this. Forcing all these warp-ins that Patience really can't afford right now as we have another big attack coming in, and this base is completely undefended. Colossus are able to get in here, but the Disruptor not going to get off, so the Colossus does fall in the end, both of them going down. That leaves him with just 3 left. And I don't know about you, but having any less than a dozen versus BYUN is a scary situation to be in. As we see the Stalkers trying to force BYUN to retreat. A bunch of ghosts going down right there. So there's just action all over the place, and now it's Patience's turn to finally get some damage done. Very quick liftoff. BYUN very knowledgeable, knows that he can't defend this location and fight down here at the same time. I think Patience can be pretty happy with 19 worker kills, though. And with BYUN being so defensive down here, he's really leaving himself open to the top side of the map. Although now BYUN is going to be going for these bit of drops. Will be able to get the Disruptors if he focus fires them down. But he's going to lose pretty much all these medevacs for that. At this stage in the game, you want to be utilizing that gas somewhere else. You can't really afford to remake those medevacs. There's just too many gas-intensive units for you to use. Patience still ahead in terms of that economy as well. Just taking a look at that advantage. never really dipping below this number for a while. The mules being pretty much the only way that BYUN is kind of equalizing right now. First shot, pretty darn nice for that disruptor. And now BYUN just in this little back and forth. He's trying to attack in, but there's always one disruptor shot ready for him. Big warping going to be going down here, as well as a Liberator killing off some units in the top there. So honestly, just action all over the place, as both these players able to find damage where you wouldn't really expect. I think Patience is getting a little bit of a better trade here, though, as he's able to really just pull BYUN around. You see additional 15 workers going down on his side of the map, though, as he will get the planetary fortress. Might get caught on the retreat. The disruptors, though, not going to let that happen. BYUN down over mass amount of supply. 80 supply right now. After this big jump forward, I think that is going to be it for BYUN. Last couple of disruptors taking out the last of the Marauders. GG is called, and Patience will go up to match point. See you in game number 4. And so with half the games in the bag in this best of 5, spawning down here on the bottom position on his last leg in this semifinal match, he is BYUN. And his opponent up here in the top, one away from the grand finals against a really hard opponent for him. He is Patience. And I gotta say, these two certainly have a history with each other, especially in recent history. They have been battling it out quite a bit, and they are just doing whatever they can to kind of make that a little bit less of a win-loss ratio here, although BYUN has got to be a little bit happy about the win-loss ratio, because he has pretty much won all but 2 of their meetups in recent years. And I mean, this would be a pretty nice win for Patience, just because he also didn't qualify for the GSL Super Tournament #1 for this year. So, I mean, a consolation to that would be beating BYUN in a smaller event. Obviously, not the same thing, but I think when it comes down to StarCraft 2, any win you can get against a difficult opponent is a good win. And now he's only 1 game from doing so. Now we'll have to see what he does decide to throw down. He's already got the ramp walled off, just to keep any sort of Reaper play from coming down. Just from the fact that I see this first Stalker, I'm thinking that this will be Twilight Council once again. And Twilight Council is one of those things that it's very open, very fluid for the Protoss player, because it allows you to go up to Blink early on. If you do so, you're safe versus these early pressures that BYUN likes to put on. You also have the ability to get a little bit cheeky, maybe a Dark Shrine. Or you can just go straight into Charge Lot Archon as well, if you're just going to go for a much more heavy tech focus. So again, a lot of different things that you can do with it. And there you go, Robo Facility going down as well. So we'll have to see what he decides to do with both of these buildings. Now, BYUN is going to be preparing for a drop off the back of this. We got that first medevac and the Marines gearing on up. Might add in the Widow Mine as well. I think that would be a pretty good tool to kind of get this game started on the right foot. We do see the Widow Mine, though, hanging out, just waiting for a Wayward Oracle or Phoenix to go into its sphere of influence. Now the Hellion going to delay the third base just slightly here, as we do see the pickup coming on in 7 Marines in that medevac. So Patience will have to be very careful here because he is teching up Dark Shrine. Normally, I would say this is a pretty good call because usually there's not a lot of detection. A lot of Terran players don't necessarily go for Raven or early missile turrets because that does slow down your economy in certain ways. But BYUN, I think he's going to be pretty safe here as he has that missile, Widow unit that flies and detects cloak units. Raven, thank you. He's got that ready to go, and unfortunately, it looks like the War Prism actually going to get hit here. So that's going to be a lot less effective as this fight goes on. All right, so the first DT heading straight for the natural. BYUN might have to expect a scan to stop that. On the main base, the DTs are not even going to get to drop as the Warp Prism is forced away. Looks like that one Dark Templar survived as well, so now Patience, he can still utilize this. He can go for Archon drops. And what that'll allow him to do is that'll still allow him to get a little bit of damage as he's kind of just teching up behind this because it's going to go straight into Charge Lot Archon. Here we go. That's a War Prism very low here. BYUN gonna go for broke. Actually drops the Marines right on top of it, and that will go down. Doesn't even lose the medevac. So that is a really nice pickup there for BYUN. Now keep in mind though, BYUN is still down a base. So if he does want to go for that third CC, he might have to go for a little bit of a push to kind of expand his positioning, because you can't really take a third base and not be across the map as a Terran player in TVP. That's kind of one of the things that I've noticed in the Korean meta. You're always attacking when you're taking a base in some form. Here we go. The Archon's finally going to be able to come in here with a fresh War Prism. This will force BYUN to come on home and delay any sort of push. Does he still have the Raven? Indeed he does. So overall, a good start to the defense here. He's just going to keep a couple of those Marines at home while we do have, you know, a small smattering of units here from Patience. He really does want to kind of buy some time for another warp-in. Dorito Cannon as well going to delay the fight for him because he cannot engage into this. Shield Battery popped a little bit early, and that's just going to let BYUN siege up and begin this very methodical push here for him. Force Field's not able to catch the army either. And so BYUN going to just use it to his advantage there against the Zealots. Patience, though, deciding that he has enough to go for it. The Siege Tanks not being focus fired there, so they will get a couple of additional shots off. And while Patience will clean that up, BYUN does depart with a good majority of his army. Did that War Prism go down as well? No, that's still hanging out. I think he just recalled that. And yeah, there's plenty of Archons here. Now, everything kind of just slowing down a little bit. We're going to have Patience once again try and go for these Zealot run-bys that have done him quite a lot of work in the last couple of games. Kind of just checking out, seeing if the third base is there. We do have Storm, so BYUN does have to be careful because he hasn't really been pre-splitting his army either with these fights. As I say that, there we go. There's the pre-split that I was hoping for. But there you go. Nice pickoff of that first Archon, and that's going to allow him to just continuously inch his way forward. Even going to be looking for the fourth base, just hoping that it's not there. As long as it's equal economies, I think BYUN has a little bit of an advantage. Another Dorito Cannon going to go down on that Archon. Huge Storm. Going to push this army back. It's all going to come down to how much healing energy does BYUN have, but even going to add in the Liberators. Just going to help to zone Patience away from this location. BYUN microing like an absolute madman, I gotta say as well. Just take a look at that. These guys just really using every little bit of advantage they can get with this positioning. And we see that Patience is doing exactly what you kind of have to do. Start to pick off the reinforcements as BYUN really likes this parade push. Losing an Archon for that, however. Some good juggling, just trying to keep everything alive. And as the Medivacs run out of healing energy, it doesn't matter. BYUN takes the game, and we go on to the ace match. And so it all comes down to this last game on Jagannatha. Let's go. Spawning up here in the top position, he is BYUN. And his opponent down here in the bottom, it is Patience. Looks like BYUN is a little bit hungry after this one. Definitely hungry for a win after taking that last game. I mean, that was such a good positioning for him, and it really shows his power with the parade push. Now, Jagannatha is a bit of a bigger map, but because of these acceleration zones, it's actually a much shorter rush distance than you would expect. So what that allows for is much more concerting pushes. You can move on out. You can do a bit of work, and then you can retreat without really worrying too much. And it does look like BYUN is going to be doing a bit of a change up here, as we have his patented 2-1-1. Might even throw down a third one if we're lucky or unlucky, depending on what you think of this matchup. Even just going to skip that first Marine, get that reactor down nice and quick. So, again, it looks like BYUN is going to be trying to take advantage of the shorter rush distance and go for some early damage. Now, Patience has been playing it pretty safe. And that's really good because he's been getting the Twilight Council, which is the pure counter to early Marine pushes, because you can get Blink that will stop your opponent. You can go for DTs, which will force the scans, not as effective, as we kind of saw in game number 4. But it's still on the table. We'll just have to see how many additional gateways he throws down. If he only throws down 2 additional gateways, then I think it's a much more defensive opening. If he throws down 3, then he's going for the jugular. And there you go. It is 3 racks. So BYUN is just going to absolutely explode in terms of that Marine production. Looks like he's even going to get that supply depot down there. I thought that was going to be a CC. But yeah, we'll have to see when he does decide to go, because Tech Lab is about halfway complete with Stim. So I think that's kind of the trigger for the attack. Any further time, and you're just going to have way too many Stalkers to deal with. You have that Warp Prism going to be coming in as well, and this is where it gets dicey, because Patience has 4 gates right now. Yep, just one finishing up. So that does mean that he's going to be very aggressive with this. And also, there are no, just no splash units out for BYUN. So these Stalkers are still going to be able to get some good pickoffs. And really, it's just pure Marines. Gendo kind of recognizing that something is up, will stop the Warp Prism from heading in there, and really he's just going to play it a little bit more defensive, it looks like. Which is fine, because he does have Stim, so that means he's going to be okay. I say that with a very hesitant voice. He's just got to be very careful not to allow the pickoffs here while he gets his upgrades up and rolling. All right, first Stalker, not going to go down. Just trying to avoid overstimming as much as possible. I do think we do have Medivacs out on the field, though. So really any timing that Patience can go for is now gone. And we kind of see him realizing that. He's got his 3rd Nexus on the way, almost complete, as well as going for those upgrades and the Colossus in the back. So now it just comes down to a game of cat and mouse with these Medivacs and Marines, seeing if he can get some pickoffs before they make it to his base. The hills have eyes. Those observers are literally scattered around the map, showing Patience that there is going to be that double prong attack. But it looks like BYUN has caught wind of that observer at the very least, because he will not be dropping into the main base anytime soon. Instead, going to try and fight here in the front with a smattering of Marines and some Widow Mines before consolidating his army and maybe continuing the push. Because there are a couple of good locations where you can kind of just siege up with pure bio, and it's usually where the Protoss player will be throwing down his cybernetics core, so you can pick that off. You can do quite a bit. Yeah, I mean, if he's going to go for this, he's going to have to be so careful here, as Patience really has his number dialed in on this defense. Stims forward. Shield battery popped a little bit too early. So there you go. Good on BYUN for forcing that. Looks like a scan going to be going down as well. Going to reveal another observer. He's pretending like he's going to go for the main base. And I'm loving this mind game out of BYUN right now, because Patience, he's keeping all his Stalkers in the back, and now BYUN just going to consolidate in the front. And here we go, a big engagement about to happen here. Marauder in the front going to take a lot of that Colossus damage, but this is just pure Marine at this time. Only a couple of Widow Mines here, which will get taken down. So BYUN having to retreat here. Looks like he's going to go finally for that drop. Maybe. Alright, so Patience gearing up for a drop of his own. Gonna send some Zealots into the third base as well. Scan going down, revealing that the Stalkers were not where they needed to be, forcing another shield battery overcharge. But Patience does have enough at the third base to kind of defend the flank at the front. And unfortunately, I think BYUN might just lose all these units, but it's going to come down to how much can he kill off these Stalkers. So far, the answer is quite a bit. Now the Zealots starting to get cleaned up in the main base. They've already been taken down out of the third, forcing the recall of the Colossus to the main base. That leaves only 2 at the third base, but BYUN still doesn't have enough. So he is just going to retreat and deal with these Zealots. His attention is clearly elsewhere, and that's exactly what Patience wants. Was able to get quite a few pickoffs here, but not really any super sustenance. Last time that he threw that 4 medevac drop in. Now Patience does have it dialed up a little bit here. He does see this drop, but will he be able to get back in time? I don't think he has a recall. No, he does not. BYUN a little bit hesitant right there, but will decide to drop in for a little bit of a visit. And the Zealots not going to be able to get on top of this. The Colossus having to retreat behind the mineral line. I just don't know if Patience really has enough here, as we have an attack coming towards the third base. There's absolutely nothing here for Patience, and it's looking like he might go down in this game and in this series. BYUN battling his way back. And as the last bunch of probes falls here, the Colossus dying in the main base, and GG is called. So wow, what a fantastic way to end it for BYUN. Coming on back and denying Patience his revenge. Thank you all so much for tuning in. If you like what we do here, hit like, favorite, and subscribe, and we will see you guys at the next big event.